Over the past few years, I've had the chance to train with some very fast runners, Olympic champions, European record holders, guys who can run a marathon close to my 10k pace. So as you can imagine, I've learned a lot, and today I'm going to take you through some of the biggest lessons that I've picked up, and these are all things that I've added to my training or should add to my training. Before we get into it, I want to say that I'm almost exclusively talking about marathon runners here. This doesn't mean that you can't apply all these lessons if you're racing on shorter distances, but just a couple of things may not apply if you're running on the track. The first thing I've noticed about elite athletes is that they absolutely love their routine. Now, this is not something that I'm amazing at implementing 100% of the time. I'm really good with my routine when it comes to the actual training and doing the runs on certain days, doing the sessions when they're supposed to be done, but I love nothing more than a long lie on an easy day. And I think this is fine, but I've seen elites who run on the same stretch of canal every single day. And I think a lot of this is just about taking the thought out of training. Like, if you know where you're going to run, when you're going to run there, then you don't really have to think much. You just go out and you do it. And there's absolutely no question of whether or not the training is going to get done, because, you know, it's a Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning, I'm going out, doing my miles on the canal, and it's getting done. Training should be pretty boring. That's something that I've said a lot on this channel. You have to just do the same thing every week, every month, every year, and you will improve. The second thing that is really obvious when you spend any time with elite athletes is that they don't see recovery as an extra. They see it as part of the training and part of the thing that's going to get them better. They'll have a nap in between sessions, and you'll rarely see them out walking around in the middle of the day. Anyone who's watched the classic Seb Coe documentary might remember the part where he says that he never takes the stairs. And honestly, from my experience, this is completely accurate. Elite runners outside of training could be seen as being pretty lazy, but actually it's just about having as much energy as possible to do the training that needs to be done. Also, things like massage aren't seen as luxuries, they're scheduled into the week. I got a massage from someone who works with a professional running team, and he said that he's massaging these people up to 3 times per week, even when they're not injured. If you're running big mileage or doing hard sessions, recovery is going to be that key thing that just keeps you uninjured. Make sure that you keep improving. The third thing is that they don't neglect speed even in the marathon block. So this one actually came directly from a European record holder, and as soon as he said it to me, I realised that it's true for everyone who's running quick in the marathon. Even deep in marathon prep, these guys are including short reps or strides in their training almost every week. Now, just to be clear, I'm not talking about going and smashing 100 metre reps, but reps as short as 400 metres are being used to maintain that 10k speed. The thinking here is that if you can't run a speed for 10k feeling comfortable, then you won't be able to get close to that speed in the marathon. It's about increasing your ceiling and not about slogging miles just to get as aerobically fit as possible. Letting the speed slip is a big mistake that I probably made in my most recent marathon build, but I'm definitely not going to let that happen again. The fourth thing is that no one trains alone. And again, this is something that I'm not the best at when my dad isn't available to be on the bike, but I genuinely cannot remember a time where I seen an elite marathon runner do a whole session by themselves. They're always either running in a group, have a bike pacer, or just have someone jumping in and out for some of the reps. Even if the paces or the session are a bit different, they just always seem to find a way to have someone keeping them company or blocking the wind. And this definitely is not about being social. It's about getting the most out of the session. And again, it goes back to getting the work done with as little thought as possible. If you can just tuck in for 50 to 75% of a session, then you're going to get the same benefit, same splits, but it's going to be a lot easier mentally to just get it done. The fifth thing, and this is something that you'll notice even from a distance, is that elite athletes race very sparingly. You're not going to catch them racing every week or more than a few times within a marathon block. The only reason that elite athletes are going to race is if it fits in with the overall plan and is going to benefit their main goal race of the season. Racing isn't an easy thing to do, and especially for these really fast people, they're probably going to have to travel to get some good competition, and this just really knocks you out of your routine. Running a great marathon requires a great block of consistent training, and if you're always breaking that training up so that you can taper to try and run a PB at another distance, you're probably going to really struggle to reach your potential on marathon day. So try and just focus on the goal race and limit yourself to 1 or 2 races in the marathon build. The sixth thing that all elites do is that they warm up before every hard day. You're never going to see an elite athlete start running quick before a warm up. And going back to that thing about routine, it's probably always going to be the same warm up that they do for every hard workout and every race. This is generally some variation of a 2-mile jog with some drills and some strides, but this will vary a bit from athlete to athlete, just depending on what works best for them. The goal with the warm-up is to get that first few minutes of the workout or the race feeling as good as possible. So when you're implementing this into your training, you have to find what works best for you. My dad loves to comment on how much I mess around before we actually even start training, but I've learned to just ignore him because this is what works for me. Just doing the warm-up at my own pace, relaxed, feeling good, and once I'm mentally and physically ready to go, then that's when I start the session. And if anyone's wondering if their warm-up jog is too slow, here's a warm-up I did with Mo Farah in 2022. I then did this long run where I averaged over 3 minutes per mile quicker than the first mile of the warm-up. The seventh thing I've noticed when training with elites is that they overdress for their runs. For a long time, I wasn't really sure why this was, but now having done a lot more research into heat training, I understand that wearing a few more layers can come with some really clear performance benefits. Now, I made a whole video on heat training a few weeks ago where I talked through my very short and very intense heat training block, so I'm not going to go too much into that again here. However, this also isn't really what I'm talking about. What I've seen from elites is more like a consistent extra layer. If it's 15 degrees, they'll wear tights and a jacket. If it's 20 degrees, they'll wear a long sleeve. I honestly preferred my 2-week heat training protocol, and this seemed to work really well for me. So if you are going to try this, just see what you prefer. There's not only one way to heat train. The eighth thing that I've learned from training with elites is that gym work is not optional. Without exception, every single runner that I've come across who's running quicker than me is doing some form of strength training every week. Now, this doesn't mean that they're always doing heavy lifting in the gym, and sometimes this is just body weight work or band exercises or even just some stretching. Actually, a few days ago, I got shown a stretch from a multiple Olympic medalist, and he told me that if I do this stretch for 3 minutes, 3 times per week, I'll run a PB at the Berlin Marathon. So since I haven't done it for a few days, I'll do it while I go through the next point. Okay, so, the first time I done this stretch, I only managed 2 minutes. So we'll see if I can do 3 here, but yeah, let's get into point 9. So point 9 is that high mileage and double runs are the norm. One of the most universal things that I've seen from fast marathon runners is that they almost always run over 100 miles per week, and they almost always run twice per day, except probably on that long run day. It's important to note that the vast majority of this running is made up of very easy mileage, and I'm not going to out anyone else's training on here, so let's look at my own training. Last week I ran 110 miles and only 31 of those miles were actually within 1 minute of my marathon pace. So that's 72% of my running mileage being done at a pace that's slower than 6:10 per mile. And if I went through it I would bet that over half of my mileage was done slower than 7:10 per mile. Honestly, I can't think of any examples of marathon runners who are running quicker than me that aren't doubling and aren't running over 100 miles a week. So slow down, try and get your volume up and see if that translates to a quick marathon. How long are we on? Oh, 2:40. I'm going to sit here for another 20 seconds and then we'll get into point 10, the final point. Oh, there we go. Oh, 3. I don't think that was quite 3 minutes, but done. The 10th thing that I've learned from training with elite runners is that they're all just genuinely nice people and so happy to help. I don't think I've ever met a world-class runner who hasn't just been willing to give up their time to answer my daft questions or just have a general chat about running. I think everyone at the top level appreciates how much work and sacrifice goes into improving at this sport, and if there's any piece of advice that they can give someone to just help them get better or make things a little bit easier, then they're willing to do that. And hopefully this video has given you some good advice to just refine your training and get closer to whatever goals you might have. I don't think there's much else to say on this at the moment, but if any of this did resonate with you or help you out, then please subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. But until then, I'll see you next time. Cheers.